Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, powered by eXp Realty, proudly serving Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. Call 407-790-9957 or visit WeSellOrlando.net. How's it going, Knight fans? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you here. In this midweek, Eric, the NBA playoffs are underway. Baseball's underway. We're in full, and you know what that means, of course. Spring football's right around the corner. Spring games are happening, baby.
Oh, boy. That's, people have that circled all year round.
I love spring football.
I couldn't think of a sporting event I could detest any more further.
Now, it's, at least, this is what I respect about UCF is that at least we try to make spring football fun for fans, right?
If you say so, okay.
I mean, it's fun. It's a nice day out.
Is it? I mean, I hope it is. Well,
yeah, you got concerts, mini golf courses. They have the yard sale that's going on. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you've totally bought in. Well, anyway, welcome to the show. You can hit us up at, we got a lot to talk. Well, we got plenty to talk about here in terms of the spring sports going on. We got softball, we got baseball to talk about. Men's and women's golf are heading down the stretch. Men's and women's tennis are heading down the stretch. We'll also talk a little football, but like developmental football here because, spring football is right around the corner, obviously. But, not much for us to really report on since, you don't have access to, to practice, which, is fine as far as we're concerned. But some news in Orlando that is UCF related, having to do with professional developmental football. So we'll touch upon that a little bit and plenty more to talk about. You can hit us up at blackandgoldbanneret.com. That's the home base for all the latest UCF sports analysis and news. You can hit us up also on Twitter, UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And you can also reach out to us individually on Twitter. I'm at Jeff_Sharon. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo. And don't forget to rate and subscribe to our podcast if you don't already on Google Play, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and or tune in radio. All right, Elo, let's dive right in. We're going to lead with softball. By the way, Brian Murphy's going to join us in a little bit to talk UCF baseball. We're recording this on Wednesday night, April 18th. UCF baseball with the victory over Bethune-Cookman midweek, so we're going to get to that. We're going to get to Brian in a little bit once he gets out of finishing up with postgame. But let's talk a little softball because UCF softball is coming off another 2 out of 3 in conference, and then another midweek victory against an in-state opponent. The Knights took 2 out of 3 against Memphis. Lost on Friday, but came back with 2 wins on Saturday and Sunday on Alumni Weekend. Nonetheless, saw a lot of old friends at the park again. And then the Knights, off of that, got a 2-1 victory over FAU on Tuesday. A big win, come from behind win. They were down 1-0 late and managed to come back. So this team is starting to develop a habit of doing this, Eric Lopez, where they've had some situations where they may have been down, but they've had some come from behind victories here and there, and I think the FAU game was no exception. Let's talk about the Memphis series first. First of all, like I said, Alumni Weekend. It was fun seeing everybody there.
Great weekend, great turnout of alumni. They honored the 2008 Conference USA Championship team on Saturday, which you did a great job doing PA for. They honored the alumni.
Thank you.
There you go. Janae did the first pitch on Friday. But the cool thing, two things jumps out to me real quick. Pretty cool to see players kind of talk to each other that never met each other or maybe haven't spoken. Like Janae Shinhoster talked to Sarah Miller and Stephanie Best. They were on the original 2002 team. They haven't spoken to each other or seen each other in 15 years.
Yeah.
I found that pretty cool. And then like people like Brittany Solis, who was on the broadcast with me for the FAU game, telling me how she met like some of the 08 members. And that was cool. And then 08 team giving a speech to the current team right before the game on Saturday and kind of inspiring. That was pretty cool. Let's play from Coach Gillespie, in fact, her thoughts on the Alumni Weekend and the success and the impact that has on the program and on the current team.
Yeah, I love my alumni. I mean, they came in and they had a little talk with the girls before the game on Saturday and talking about how they have their backs. They may not be here, but they played on this field. They played in those uniforms. They understand what they're going through. And anytime that they get frustrated and think they're all alone, realize they have alumni that's there to support them and backing them. So, thank you, alumni, for coming out and being a part of this because it made a huge difference on the girls and the mentality going into this game.
There you go. There's Coach Gillespie with her thoughts on the Alumni Weekend and obviously helping her in the results there, Jeff. So it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Great turnout by the alumni from different eras. And it was funny because I even talked to some of the former baseball players and even football players that were at this weekend. And they were telling me they were kind of envious because they don't get that. They don't get a lot of that in the other sports that often. So that was a cool experience. And I know that, in fact, I know we're going to work on trying to get the inaugural team, the 2002 softball team, maybe for homecoming when UCF plays Navy in football, Jeffrey. And you're going to be invited in that because we're going to consider you the part of that inaugural team since you were around for that.
Well, I was not a part of that inaugural team. I merely did the broadcasts for them on tape delay, but.
They said that you're invited. They said you're invited.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that nonetheless. But if they are able to get that team back together, even if it's not this year, if it's some point in the future, yeah, it was fun seeing Sarah Miller there. I hadn't seen her since my freshman year. Of course, Steph and Janae and everybody there. Bree Javier was there. I mean, it was a great time. It was really a great time. And UCF got 2 wins out of 3 as well. So it was a fun weekend for UCF, and really 2 big wins against a very good Memphis team that they are neck and neck with in the standings.
It really was. It was big, especially after dropping the Friday night game to come back and win the next 2 games. They have still now never lost to Memphis. They've never lost a conference series to Memphis at home, so that's intact. And the way the weekend played out, by winning that series over Memphis, UCF kind of separated themselves a little bit for second place. They're now in second place in the American Conference, 2 games up on Memphis, 2 games up on Tulsa, 2 games up on Houston, and 2 games up on Wichita State. And keep in mind, now UCF has tiebreaker edges over Memphis, Houston, and Tulsa. And they play Wichita State this weekend. So that was significant. Significant from a postseason aspiration, significant from a conference title race. I thought it was big. Sierra Ward, a walk-on, has pitched well in relief in the win on Saturday against Memphis where they honored the 08 team, and pitched well in relief in the Tuesday win against FAU. They've needed somebody else to step in and get some innings there and give Aaliyah a bit of a break. I think offensively, certainly Aubrey Johnson has taken her game to a different level. She now leads the team in homers and RBIs. And really, what a story Aubrey Johnson is, Jeff. It's funny. People will say, I'm going to be biased here and whatever, and that's fine. Aubrey Johnson.
You're biased.
Thank you. Well, I've gotten already complaints from college softball fans when I came out with my first projections on Fast Pitch News that I'm biased because I have UCF as one of the last 4 in. But what are you going to do?
Whatever. Go read somebody else.
Even though I had facts to back it up why I have them in. But whatever, let's ignore that. Power, and of course it's typical Power 5 people that are all, what do you do? They haven't played anybody. Well, you guys don't beat anybody. But anyway, Aubrey Johnson is a credit to the coaching staff. Because I will be completely honest with you. A year ago, Aubrey Johnson was a freshman that quite frankly struggled. It was a major adjustment for her going from Muskogee, Oklahoma. It's a small town in Oklahoma, to Orlando, Florida. You new university, you're meeting new people. And, it was a bit of an adjustment for her. She hit 185 for the year. At times struggled defensively. And quite frankly, there were people that wondered if she was, would she be cut out for Division I? And the staff, to their credit, said, yes, she is. She just needs the reps. She needs the experience, and she'll figure it out. And to her credit and to the staff's credit, they both worked hard. She worked hard in the offseason. The staff believed in her, and they've developed her. And that's what coaching's about. And now all of a sudden, she's a kid that's a 185 hitter last year, has turned into an all-conference / player of the year candidate in the American Conference. That's how good she is right now. It's a remarkable story. It's a tremendous credit to how good this coaching staff is in developing players. And it's a credit to Aubrey for the hard work that she's put in and has made has figured out. I thought last year she looked at times like the game was too fast for her. That's not the case anymore. And she made the great defensive play on Tuesday's win to start a 4-2-3 double play to win the game. She's been tremendous at the plate. She has been a rock solid and really has helped this Knights offense. She was explosive, 3 for 3 on Sunday in the win against Memphis with a home run. She's become a stud. That's why she's hitting in the 3 spot. And what they've done is they're hitting her behind Cassidy Brewer because teams are pitching around Brewer. Brewer leads the conference with 27 walks. So Johnson now is the one that's kind of getting the pitches, and she's making teams pay. And all of a sudden that's made the offense better. So credit to Aubrey for the incredible year that she's having, and a credit to the coaching staff. That's why they're coaches, and that's why us fans don't know what we're talking about, because they know what they know the personnel, they know what they have, and they know, hey, you know what? Yeah, she's taking her lumps maybe, but this is going to pay off in the long run, and it has definitely paid off that Aubrey Johnson, who is just a sophomore, is having an amazing year and helped this team get to where they're at right now, which is second place, 1 game back of USF for first place in the league.
Well, Aubrey this year is hitting 344, which you said she hit 185. I actually looked. I think that must have been the conference stats, because I looked at her last year. Last year her career stats say 176. So
I believe it. No, fair. All right, that's fair.
So that means she's doubled her average from last year. She leads the team in hits with 42, home runs with 7. Caitlin Jensen has 6. Cassidy Brewer has 5. Leads the team in RBI with 27 and has a .557 slug percentage, which is also best on the team. So yeah, you're right. She has come around in a big way for UCF, and it came out of nowhere, really, I think, as well. So what a weekend she had for UCF, and we talked about this. This FAU game, by the way, was one of those situations where it just seemed like things just weren't going UCF's way. FAU was taking care of business on defense, and all of a sudden, a couple of big hits in a row, and bam, UCF's up 2-1, and Aaliyah White comes in and closes it out for the Knights' 30th victory of the season. So that puts the Knights at 30-16 on the year, and so I will put it to you, Eric Lopez. With them right now at 30-16, and they have 3 games coming up against Wichita State at Wichita State this week. Another one of those 4 teams in the middle of the conference at 6-6 in the league right now. USF still leads the conference at 9-3. UCF in second at 8-4, and then you have Memphis, Houston, Tulsa, Wichita all at 6-6. This is not going to be easy. Playing at Wichita State is just weird. It's going to be super windy. Out there in the plains of Kansas. First year in the conference for Wichita. What do we know about them coming in?
We know they're really good. They have an RPI of 34. They have finished just knocking off Oklahoma State to complete a 2-game sweep this year against Oklahoma State, who's the second best team in the Big 12. They have beaten Arkansas, who might be a host team in the SEC. They're a top 16 team, top 20 team in the country. They've taken 2 out of 3 at Nebraska. This is a legitimate team with explosive offense. They're number 1 when it comes to home runs in conference games. If that wind's blowing out, they're going to hit home runs. They got a good lefty pitcher, and this will not be an easy series. This is a big series for UCF, and not only for the conference race, but postseason aspirations. Because the thing is, the American Conference, I've really made a point out of really mentioning this at all times, not only on the UCF broadcast that I do, but also on the Fast Pitch News softball podcast that I do, and on the articles I'm written. I just did my first projections. The American Conference, I'm going to say this again, is the number 4 conference in college softball right now. Number 4.
Yeah.
Better than the ACC, better than the Big Ten. And I would argue if you take out Oklahoma from the Big 12, the American Conference is probably better than the Big 12 this year. Yeah. Now, obviously, Oklahoma being a part of it, you can't take them out. But you get the point. The point is this league's really good. And they're really stacked. And it's teams like Wichita State, which has been an incredible addition to the league. Again, Mike Oresco. The national media, the mainstream want to focus on the men's basketball, rightfully so. But the impact goes beyond men's basketball. It goes into volleyball, which you saw up close, what the impact they did in volleyball, where they're, top 25 team in the country in volleyball and won the league in their first year. Baseball, their baseball program's very good. They've been a top 25 team most of the year. This softball team, I would argue, is a top 25 team that they have there. So this is going to be a challenge, but it's also an opportunity for UCF because their RPI is 56. You'd like to be in the 40s to really feel good about it. And UCF, Jeff, it's going to be interesting. They might be the most controversial team come Selection Sunday if they don't win the conference, the league, because UCF has tremendous wins. They have wins over Florida, Long Beach State, Hofstra. They got 2 wins at Houston, 3 wins against Tulsa to this point, 8 wins against the top 50, 12 wins against the top 100. It's all good. The negative is they also have probably a bit too many. I think they have like 8 losses against teams 100 or worse, and they have 2 losses against teams 200 or worse. Yeah. So they're kind of the inconsistent, typical young team that's capable of beating good teams, but they've also dropped some games they probably shouldn't have. Now, injuries played a role in that. So
weather played a role in the UConn games.
Oh, wow. That's not even without question. That hurt them. You're right. That probably could cost them the conference title. But so the question is, from the committee standpoint, are they going to put UCF in because of the quality wins that they have, which is very good, or do they punish them for the bad losses? And we don't know that. So how can UCF help their cause? You look at their next 6 games, which are all on the road. Wichita State, I mentioned, they're in the mid-30s RPI. I think they're 34. USF is 37. 6 games on the road. You win, let's say, 4 out of 6 in that, your RPI, your resume skyrockets even further. And obviously, you maintain your chances at the conference title. That's what's at stake here. If they can win some of those games, they can really enhance their resumes. If they don't, then they may have to win the conference tournament to get in, or at least make a deep run. So that's what's at stake. Easier said than done. I agree with you. It's definitely a concern with the weather. I believe as we recorded this, I think they'll be fine on Friday, although there's going to be about 20-mile-an-hour winds to deal with. Yeah. Which, by the way, for we were actually considering me going up to Wichita to broadcast. They told us that there was limited media space, and so they was going to be putting me outside behind home plate.
You have fun with that.
Well, I'm not going, because for other reasons. But yeah, that mainly weather-wise. I believe there's about 100% chance of rain on Saturday, which means they may have to play a doubleheader once again, Jeff, at some point this weekend, whether it be Friday or Sunday, which means somebody other than Aaliyah White's going to have to throw some quality innings against a very explosive Wichita State team that UCF's going to have to keep inside the park. They cannot get into a home run derby against Wichita State or they will lose.
Well, Friday it's going to be cloudy and windy. Saturday it's going to be rainy and windy. Sunday it's going to be sunny and windy. So
wind, baby.
Wind all the time, yeah. But now, okay, here's the other thing I did want to point out, and you hinted upon this, but I still think this bears repeating because it's still unbelievable to me. Wichita State right now, sitting at 24-17 overall, 6-6 in the American, 3rd from last in the conference, has the highest RPI in the conference. They're at 34. Yeah. USF, who's in first place, is at 37. Let's see. You mentioned UCF's
56.
RPI at 56. Houston's at 45. Tulsa's at 49. UCF's at 56. So beat Wichita, you move up. If you're UCF, 56, 2 wins on the road against a team ranked 20 spots ahead of you.
Yep.
I mean, that's a big opportunity for UCF right there. So
the next 2 weekends, it's going to really tell. I think at the end of these 6 games, we're going to know if this team is an NCAA tournament team or if they need a lot of work in the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. So that's what's at stake for this young team in the next 2 weeks. By the way, 30 wins, you mentioned that? They already surpassed their win total from last year, which they had 29.
So, yeah, so there you go. So the 3 games against Wichita State will be the links to watch them are on the Wichita State from the Wichita State site. So if you go to UCFnights.com, you'll be able to click in and watch those.
And they do a pretty good job. They do a very good job. So they got a good video and stuff. So it's worth it.
No midweek game for UCF softball this week. Then they go from Wichita State, come back home.
Yep.
Then they go right to Tampa for 3 against USF. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those are going to be very huge depending upon what happens this week. Who's USF have this week, Eric? Do you know?
East Carolina. They go to East Carolina this weekend.
Okay, ECU's 5-7 in the league. So
very capable to hit home runs out of the park. If you're a UCF fan, you're rooting for East Carolina to pull the upset there a little bit. You're also hoping UCF's 1 game back going into this weekend. Honestly, if they could stay 1 game back somehow by the end of the weekend, you take it just based on the fact that on paper, USF has an easier matchup than UCF. If you're UCF, you're hoping it comes down the next weekend in Tampa. You take 2 out of 3. You end up being tied for first place going to the final weekend of the regular season. UCF would host East Carolina. USF would host Wichita State. Cool. Edge UCF in that regard. So just from a math standpoint, if you're thinking conference title, I think if you're UCF, the goal is to stay at least 1 game back at the end of this weekend. If you fall further back, that's going to be hard to catch up.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to be big to watch there with UCF. Again, 7 p.m. Friday, first game against Wichita State. 3 p.m. Saturday, 1 p.m. Sunday out in Wichita. All right, let's move over to baseball. Brian Murphy joins us now, spokes_Murphy in your program, number 1 in your hearts, as always. Brian, UCF, well, actually, you're in your car right now driving back from UCF defeating Bethune-Cookman midweek. Final tally, it was 7-1, I thought I saw there?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So, that's exactly what you're supposed to do when you play Bethune-Cookman midweek. So, UCF coming off of 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati, including the 11-2 victory on Saturday. Sunday came up short, 9-6. Here's the situation I'm looking at: is that they're now 26-12, but 6-6 in the conference. You have 3 teams tied at the top at 7-5: USF, Houston, Cincinnati. You could have put a real dent in Cincinnati if you won that Sunday game, but they didn't. So ECU, UConn, 5-4. Are numbers 4 and 5 in the league, and then UCF is in 6th right now. So, again, I pose this question to you. Do we panic yet or no?
It wouldn't be a Black Gold Banneret podcast unless Jeff Sharon
if I'm not panicking,
if we're going to panic.
Listen, if I'm not panicking about something, we should just re-record the whole show because I always panic about something.
Jeff, you just gave the standings,
right?
And you can see the logjam there. And certainly,
I know.
You got to hop a lot of teams, but you're 1 back in the loss column, my boy.
I know, but see, here's the problem: is that Sunday game against Cincinnati, I wanted to see this team just stomp on their throats, and they didn't do it, and that's what's got me worried.
I understand, it's sort of like, and I hate to go a little off script here, but with like the Mets, if you saw the Mets Nationals game 2 days ago, the Mets blew a game they should have beaten the Nationals in New York. The Nationals have haunted them for years. Came back and were down 6-1, and Nationals came back and won the game 9-6. And everyone's like, that could be a real big turning point for the Mets. I mean, and then they come back tonight and they won coming from behind. So I think it gets a little blown out of proportion a little bit. Baseball is a very sort of random, variable sport. I understand like that loss on Sunday was pretty bad. Like you're up 5 runs in the 8th and you let it go at home. That's not good, even at this juncture in the season. But that doesn't foretell all of a sudden they're going to go into a slump or they're going to be haunted by that loss. And I don't think I'm going to write that narrative of like, well, they lose 2 out of 3 to USF. It's because they lost to Cincinnati on Sunday. They might lose 2 out of 3 to USF, but it's because USF probably played better than them. Nothing really to do with Cincinnati.
But let me ask you this, Murph. Let me counter this with this. I'm not concerned about, I don't think it's panic time or anything like that. But I will say this. You follow this team much closer than I do. But I was listening to the game on Sunday on the way back from softball, and the bullpen blew the game. Bryce Tucker was not good. And I feel like, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like in every series we've had one of those games where the bullpen has coughed up the game. And Bryce Tucker has not been as good as he was last year when he was an All-American closer. How concerned are you about this bullpen moving forward? Because it seems they can't – there's a game every game. It seems a game in a conference play that they cough it up, and that could be the difference between making the tournament or winning the conference and making the NCAAs or missing the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about it like, UCF is on the precipice, on the cusp of these conference or these NCAA tournament projections. They are right there among the cut line. So, yeah, you lose a game, it could decide whether they're in or out at the end of the year. But this is a 15-minute conversation that we really don't have time for. But actually, Bryce has been more erratic this year. He's had some more walks this year, but his ERA is still in the low twos. He's still very good. He's actually been better. I thought he has been better recently in the last few weeks than he was before that when he was a little more rocky. Now, again, does he work himself into jams? Yeah, he kind of does. He didn't get out of it Sunday, but he got out of it against Miami. He got out of it Friday against Cincinnati, and actually was not great tonight. They used him tonight because Lovelady said they didn't want him to be sitting around for 4 to 5 days. So he has pitched 4 of the last 5 games. Eric Heppel's pitched 4 of the last 5 games. But I trust Lovelady. He knows how to handle his relievers. Certainly guys who have been here more than a year. And Bryce has been fun. Bryce has actually been pretty good. Heppel has been really good. If you take out 2 really bad outings that were weeks ago, he's been extremely good. There have been some guys who have fallen back a little bit. Garrett Westberg seems to have hit a bit of a wall coming from Tacoma Community College last year. Was great. Was really a surprise early in the year, and he seems to have backtracked a little bit. May have hit a little bit of a wall here at D1, but the bullpen overall has been good. I do have fairly big pitching news on this team. It has nothing to do with the bullpen. It is this: Joe Sheridan will not start this weekend. Joe Sheridan, yeah. So Joe has had some control issues, and before the UConn series, that UConn series, I think he walked like 6 batters, and then he had a 4-walk start, not that far before that start at UConn. So there was a lot of walk issues, and then people were like, Lovelady kind of wrote off that UConn start because it was frigid, and said, well, he couldn't feel the ball. Well, that's great until last Friday against Cincinnati. He had no feel for anything. Couldn't spot anything. That sinker was sinking in the dirt. And it was not throwing over strikes at all. And Lovelady sounded concerned. That was last Friday. So we come back tonight. He says that Joe's not injured, but they're going to give him the weekend off starting. They may use him in relief, but they're going to use Cree Finfrock, who pitched 5 no-hit innings at Miami, to start on Friday, and then use Chris Williams on Saturday and J.J. Montgomery on Sunday. Of course, that Friday start against USF will probably come against Shane McClanahan, who, although has been erratic and not quite as good recently, is still probably going to be one of the top 10 picks, maybe top 5 picks in the MLB draft.
Not bad, though, when you can, plug a guy in like Finfrock into the rotation as a backup when one of your guys goes down. This is all right. So Rylan Thomas hits another home run tonight. He now has hang on, I'm pulling up the stats right now. He now has 10 homers on the year, leads the team. But the story from the weekend was Tyler Osick. What a weekend he had, and he's actually come into his own just in the last few weeks, I think, with the bat as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, very deserving American Conference Player of the Week. When you drive in 14 RBIs in 5 games, that's not bad. And I know RBIs is a very dependent stat upon the guys that get on in front of you, but you still got to get them in. And he homered in every game this past weekend. Didn't do much tonight against Bethune-Cookman, but really just one of those weeks where it's like you just couldn't get him out, and everything he hit was just line drives. And he hit some balls hard tonight. I think he did have a double, now that I'm remembering, tonight. But yeah, he's been outstanding. And this offense has its ups and downs. Obviously now we know what this offense is. And right now it's, Rylan gets a lot of the pub. He deserves it. I mean, he's just been incredible. Tyler Osick has really come into his own. Matthew Micah, remember, guys, early in the year, Matthew Micah was really scuffling. They moved him down from the leadoff spot to down in the order, and he's really gotten comfortable. He's hitting about 360 in the middle of the lineup since, I think, the first week and a half of the year. And Ray Alejo has been hot in conference. Dallas Beaver had 3 hits tonight. He's batting leadoff. The bottom of the lineup is kind of a question mark. Like, what are you going to get out of Brandon Hernandez at short offensively? What are you going to get out of right field, which has kind of been a revolving door between Brody Wofford and tonight it was Max Wood, and it's not great. But the top 5 guys in this lineup have really all sort of livened up recently, and it gives this team hope because we know how good this team can be pitching-wise. I mean, we talk about Sheridan, and Chris Williams has been outstanding, kind of underratedly so. J.J. Montgomery has pitched better than the last 2 starts. Then you've got Fenfrock and also have Thad Ward, who might pitch Friday after Fenfrock if he can't go more than 4 or 5 innings. They're all very good. The bullpen's very good. It's how much can they score? And the top 5, the top half of this lineup has been collectively great. Obviously led by Thomas, but it's not just him. And then the thing is, well, how much are they going to get from guys 6 through 9? And I think that's a question that they're going to need to be answered here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, especially when you consider go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. My question to you, though, with that in mind, you're going to USF. They got swept there last year. USF's coming off winning 2 out of 3 against East Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Who's top 10? Yeah, top 10 in the nation in East Carolina.
I mean, what's kind of your thoughts here in this pivotal series? It's a big rivalry series, but it's big from a postseason, the conference race, NCAA tournament implications. You look at the league, an RPI standpoint, UCF, if you go to Warren Nolan at the time of this recording, their RPI is 57, USF's 25. So that's a really big opportunity. You look at the rest of the schedule. Wichita State's a 13 RPI. Houston, surprisingly, only 123 RPI. Cincinnati's 158. That's why that Sunday loss that really hurts, because that's an RPI 158 loss there. Tulane's only 116. Memphis, who they dropped the game, is 222. My point is, that they need to take opportunities here to get these marquee wins. This is a league that D1 Baseball, for example, has got projected for 4 teams in the field, with East Carolina as a possible host. And Connecticut really high ranked as well as a possibility of a host team. In fact, there have been some discussions that if Connecticut were to host, that one of the proposals would be for them to host at Fenway Park.
Get out of here.
For the region. Awesome. No, I'm not making that up. D1 Baseball has actually been writing about that. So that's been in the conversation, that if UConn were to be in a position to host, that they would host in Fenway Park, because as we have learned from past episodes, their current facilities cannot host. So that's one of the things they're trying to work on. And then USF, by winning 2 out of 3 against East Carolina, has gotten themselves into the field, at least for now, and projected. So I think this is a big series. This is a big series. And to me, with all due respect to whatever the spring game and whatever they want to say about it, this is a marquee weekend. This is the marquee UCF event of the weekend right here. It's USF baseball, and I think this is a big, big series.
Yeah, I agree. And, I've gotten, some playful flack from, let's say, other member of another rival UCF podcast for always saying it's early, there's no reason to panic. And it has been there have been times where people have wanted to write this team off when they lost to UConn or lost to Memphis. And it's no, it's still too early and there's still a lot of baseball left. Well, it's not now, especially because of the opponent, and it's on the road, and there's such a logjam in this conference. It's not just that USF is 7-5. It's that you need these wins against good teams who are in front of you, period. And like you said, they don't have a ton of Tulane's not great. Houston doesn't have a tremendously high RPI. So as far as in-conference big wins, this is one of their last few chances to do it. I know the Warren I-4 is meaningful, maybe not as much in baseball, but still it's got some gravitas. But overall, I don't really care. It's a big series, and they probably let's just be frank and say they need to win 2 out of 3. They really do, and I'm curious to see what happens on Friday, because with McClanahan going, he's been erratic or effectively wild because he's walked a lot of guys without giving up a ton of runs. But if him going at Finfrock is still a clear advantage for USF. And if UCF can't steal that game, they're going to need to win Saturday and Sunday. I think this is a critical weekend for them to win the series.
Well, it's going to be a tough. Particularly for the pitching staff for UCF, as we know, because this is a USF team that comes in number 1 in team batting in the American. UCF is 4th in that category, whereas UCF is 1st in team pitching. So the unstoppable force meets the immovable object this week in college baseball. So, all right. So that's what we're going to be looking at here this coming week with that Bethune-Cookman win. At least they got that one in the bag. The Friday game is at 7 p.m. Saturday game is at 6:30, and Sunday is at 1. Interestingly enough, on the schedule, it says the Saturday game at 6:30 is scheduled to be broadcast on 96.9 The Game and 740. But that's across from the spring game. I don't know what the plan is there, but
we got to look into that because I'm actually interested in tuning into. I mean, I think it's a big series. I mean, you look at the next 6 games. All right, they go to USF this weekend, and then host Wichita State next weekend, which has an RPI of 13. I think, Murph, let me ask you this: do you think at the end of these next 6 games, we'll know what this team is as far as, is it an NCAA tournament team? Is it a conference title contender? Or is it a team that's going to have to maybe go deep into the conference tournament to make the NCAA? Do you think the next 6 games after these 6 games, we'll know where we stand with this team?
Yeah, I agree. What date is next? What date is next Sunday? So today's
that
the
is
18th.
April 29th. April 29th.
So, yeah. By the evening of April 29th, we will know exactly what this team is. Even though we've got a couple more conference series after that, and a series against Oklahoma, we will know what this team and their future is by the next Sunday evening. Yes.
Now the good news is, give Lovelady credit for this. The weekend of May 11th through the 13th, UCF's hosting Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of the top teams in the Big 12. Their RPI is 34. That's very smart to schedule a marquee series on your bye week in conference.
Yeah,
that could help the resume too. I mean, that's a big series as well. So this is going to get very interesting. You look at the homestand here coming up: Wichita State, FAU. Believe it or not, 18 RPI.
Yeah, they're
May
good.
1st, Tuesday. It's a midweek big game. In fact, they have a home and home with FAU. Oklahoma. And then how about this? They go to Jacksonville May 15th. Jacksonville has an RPI of 28. That surprises me.
That's a good year for baseball in the state of Florida.
It always is, though. And Lovelady's talked about it. I mean, everybody's good in the league and in the state. But I think from a conference standpoint and from a postseason standpoint, the next 6 games, I think we'll have a good idea where this team is at and where we think they could be.
Cool stuff. All right, Murph, tell us what you got coming up this week.
All right, so going to have a UCF Baseball Notebook article come out Thursday night or Friday morning, hopefully this Thursday night. I had basically put together all the parts I needed for a Bryce Tucker feature in the preseason, and then I pushed it back a little bit, and then the season started, and he wasn't very good. So I was like, well, now I don't know when I'm gonna publish this thing. But recently he's been better, and then you had Headbutt Gate. Which sort of just added another level to it. So that'll be coming. So that will also come out this weekend, and I will be at Saturday's spring game instead of being in Tampa. And I will let you know, or I will write an article about things we learned about UCF football this spring.
We need to know. We need a full report on the food trucks, and a review of the concert of the 2 concerts that they're having as well. Which, by the way, I think that what UCF does with all that stuff outside the stadium is a great idea for spring game. But anyway, that's a conversation that's far afield for here. All right, Brian Murphy talking UCF baseball with us. Thank you, Brian. Spokes_Murphy on Twitter, and follow his stuff on blackandgoldbanneret.com as always. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, and stick around. Lopez and I will be right back. We're going to have a little bit more on golf, a little bit more on tennis, and we're going to talk about developmental league football and why it's good for UCF. coming up in a little bit with Steve Spurrier's announcement that he's the head coach of the Orlando franchise in the Alliance of American Football, which will be playing at Spectrum Stadium. So stick around. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by the Unger Real Estate Group, powered by eXp Realty. Sam Unger and his team proudly serve Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties, specializing in buying, selling, and new construction. Sam is a proud UCF graduate, class of 2006, and he's such a dedicated Knight fan that right now, if you work with him as your realtor, he will donate a portion of his commission to the UCF Football Excellence Fund in your name. So if you're ready to buy a new home or sell your current home, upgrade or downsize, Sam and his team have you covered so you can find the right home at the right price in the right location. So give him a call right now at 407-790-9957. Again, that's 407-790-9957. Or visit on the web at WeSellOrlando.net. Again, that's WeSellOrlando.net. You can also reach them on Facebook at facebook.com/WeSellOrlando. Get in touch with the Unger Real Estate Group today and make finding your dream home a reality.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Andrew Fegley.
And I'm Trey Strelko. Where are we? This isn't our usual spot.
It looks like we've landed in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of those guys.
You know, Nightline has UCF sports covered.
Week in and week out, we bring you interviews with newsmakers and in-depth analysis of UCF sports.
Subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to subscribe to Nightline on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at UCF_Nightline.
Trace, can we go back to the 1148 studios now and start working on our next all-new Nightline?
How do we get out of here? Go Knights!
Charge on.
Now back to you guys in the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you. blackandgoldbanneret.com is where you can find us. Also, UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/blackandgold.Banneret. All right. We're getting to the championship season for the spring sports, ELO, because it's mid-April, and golf and tennis are coming down the home stretch. So let's start with golf. Women's golf was in Palm Coast this past weekend for the American Athletic Conference Championship. It was held at Hammock Beach Resort Conservatory Course up in Palm Coast. So remember, they're the defending champs. Didn't come out as the champions this year, UCF finishing tied for second with East Carolina at +20 as a team. Houston was the champion. They went wire to wire +6 overall. But still, it's the fourth time in 5 years that UCF has finished in the top two in the American Championships. They had two strong performances up at the top. Kaylee Jones finished in fifth place, finished -1. The individual champion, by the way, was Taryn Torgerson of Wichita State. She finished at -5. But Kaylee Jones finished in fifth for UCF. Maria Balcazar, with a strong finish, 70 in the final round, finished at +4. I should note that Kaylee Jones shot a 69 in the final round after going 71-75 in the first two. Anna Laura Collado finished top 20 at +10. And Chinatsu Kobayashi finished at +11 in 22nd place. So pretty good finish for UCF here. Now they await, for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Emily Marin, of course, another outstanding year for UCF. And this is a pretty good UCF women's golf team that we're expecting to hear. I couldn't find the exact date when they're going to release the field, but it's going to be pretty soon. Last year it was in the last week of April. So congrats once again to UCF women's golf. And Emily Marin, have you met Emily before, Eric?
Yes. Yeah, I met her.
Isn't she amazing?
Yes. I met her. What was it? It was like the coaches, the thing they do with the coaches.
Yeah, the tour in the summer.
Yeah, that's what I met her. I got a chance to talk to her. So, yeah, very good, positive, enthusiastic, for sure. Passionate for the game, absolutely.
And
so
a hell of a coach. Just a hell of a coach.
Yeah. Hopefully they make the tournament and
Yeah.
And kind of make some noise there. But, that tournament going on, and give credit where credit is due. Second place finish, pretty good.
Yeah. Men's golf.
Hey, more importantly, the most important, by the way,
yeah,
by finishing second, they locked up the Warren I-4 trophy.
that's right. I can't believe I forgot that, but that's true. Now, this is the second consecutive year that that women's golf is the ones who finished off the War on I-4 trophy, because they did it last year when they won the team championship. But yeah, UCF clinches the War on I-4 All Sports Trophy for the second consecutive year, and so far, they've won it. Like I said, yeah, they won it both years. The football trophy is split 1-1 so far, but since they started the trophy, I don't know if they do it retroactively. Do they do it retroactively? I don't think so. But anyway, it is since they started the All Sports Trophy, UCF has won it both times. So, and they did it in rather convincing fashion. So, just another feather we can put in our caps this year for UCF. Men's golf, they have the American Athletic Conference tournament coming up. Their schedule shows it's on the 22nd through the 24th at Palm Harbor in Palm Harbor, Florida. They're coming off a ninth place finish at the Boilermaker Invitational in West Lafayette, Indiana. But now they prepare for the big conference tournament there. So we'll be keeping an eye on Bryce Waller and company this coming week, starting Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. By the way, Division I men's golf rankings, UCF right now is actually unranked. I'm going to pull up the women's golf rankings here because this should give us a little bit of insight into where they are, at least in Golf Week. Wow, okay, they're not ranked there either. So, yeah, so that's a surprise. At least to me it is, because they've had a pretty good season so far. So we'll see how the tournament shakes out. All right, so that wraps up golf. Just wanted to give you the update on that. Keep an eye on UCF_golf. By the way, if you follow them on Twitter, great follow. And it's one Twitter handle for both of the golf teams. So UCF_golf for all the latest from UCF Golf. Tennis. All right. I want to start first with women's tennis because they finished their season with a 4-1 win at Wichita State this past Sunday, coming off of a loss at Tulsa 4-2. But they are now headed to the American Athletic Conference Championships in Dallas, and they are playing Thursday, April 19th, against Tulane. So this is starting. We're recording this on Wednesday. They're starting this the following day. So by the time you hear this, you'll probably know that it's time for them to actually get started. So the American Athletic Conference tennis tournament is going to get underway there. And then the men's team also has their draw for the men's tennis championships in Dallas. They start on Friday, and they play Tulsa at 1 p.m. on Friday. So we have women's tennis Thursday at 1 against Tulane, men's tennis Friday at 1 against Tulsa. Women's tennis obviously comes in one of the favorites in the American at 18-3 overall, finishing the regular season. Men's tennis has a bit of an uphill climb. They finished the season 10-9, the regular season, Eric. But you found some pretty interesting stuff on their college tennis rankings about them, Eric.
Yeah, there's a site that actually keeps track and does projections as far as teams in the postseason, and they believe UCF's literally on the bubble. They are right in the bubble. The loss to USF, who's kind of had a disappointing. It's kind of been weird this year. UCF both down in tennis. Mm-hmm. Some youth, I think, part of that. But and nonetheless, with that loss, I think it hurt UCF. They're right on the bubble line, and I think depending on
that site, by the way, is sorry, Eric. That site, by the way, you mentioned was collegetennisranks.com. I just wanted to get that in. collegetennisranks.com.
And so, for example, they actually have a projection of the field of the NCAA tournament, and they have, at the time of this recording, UCF as the last team in. And the way he has it on the site, it's UCF, and then there's that line right underneath that with
big,
Virginia.
Thick red line.
Right. And the thing that's nervous and talking to people that follow this a lot more is like Virginia right now is the last team out there. I think they're the defending national champions, I believe. So some people are skeptical that Virginia is going to get left out. So UCF's got a lot of work to do. They gotta get some wins here. Try to win the tournament. Don't leave it up to the committee. That's definitely a concern, and I think I think if they lose early in the tournament, that might be all she wrote for that ball club. So that's a big tournament for them. The women are going to get in. Which will be the first time since 2002, which is remarkable to say. So what a year they have had. I don't know if anybody anticipated that. And the thing that I'm curious about is, right now they're ranked 21st in women's according to college tennis ranks. They're safely in. They're going to be in. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if there was a chance that maybe they would host. It doesn't appear that that's the case. According to college tennis ranks, the belief is that Florida is going to host, Georgia's going to host among the power teams there. And you might don't be surprised if you end up seeing UCF maybe going there at one of those sites, maybe even Georgia, as you know very well.
Dan McGill Tennis Complex, yeah.
So it just look for that as far as possibilities of places where women's tennis might get sent to for the NCAA tournament. And hopefully the men's can kind of make a run here and sneak in and get into the tournament as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's a very important tournament, I think, to follow here to see if we could get both tennis teams in, which would be kind of surreal. I mean, who would have thought that would be even a possibility? The fact that we're even having this conversation of having both tennis programs possibly make the NCAA tournament, I never thought would ever see the day.
Right. By the way, I wanted to go back. Real quick, women's golf, the tournament selection date is April 25th. So that's 1 week from the night we're recording this, which is Wednesday. Men's tennis selection date is May 1st. So mark your calendars there.
Really?
Yes. Men's tennis championships. By the way, men's golf regionals being one of the regionals being held in Reunion, Florida this year, so that's kind of cool. The men's golf or the women's golf finals are in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Men's golf finals are in Carson Creek Golf Club in Stillwater, Oklahoma as well. And then let's see, where's tennis here? I'm looking at the NCAA events calendar here. Women's tennis,
but
both tennis
I think
finals
it's
are going to be
right?
The selection date. You mean?
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I misspoke. I read the wrong thing. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. The tennis finals for both men and women will be held at Wake Forest, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So, so that's where they would be going. They're good. Hopefully UCF is going to be hosting. I think pretty soon, aren't they?
2019, I believe.
2019, yeah. So hey,
2019,
one more year, and by the way, one other note on men's tennis: Virginia, by the way, who you mentioned, is right in that race with UCF for that last and final spot in the men's tournament. Virginia are the 3-time defending NCAA champions. Last year they went 34-1. So
right. So the belief is from guys that we both know that follow this sport a lot closer than I do as far as the college game's concerned. They're very skeptical that the committee would leave Virginia out, that they're going to put them in there to give them a chance to defend their title, I think is the belief. So my point is you don't want to leave it up to the committee if you're UCF because of that reason, because I tend to agree with that belief. I'd be surprised if Virginia got left out.
Unless, of course, Virginia got clobbered in the ACC.
True.
So that's another thing that we'd have to figure in there. All right. One last thing I did want to get in here. Let's see. Got that. Track and field. They are heading to Auburn for the War Eagle Invitational outdoor event.
Yeah, we're playing Auburn in like every sport, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, so far it's gone pretty well for us all around. That's a Friday, Saturday invitation. Their American Athletic Conference championship is Friday, May 11th, Saturday, May 12th, Sunday, May 13th, and that's up at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's hosting that. So they still have a ways to go before they head to the conference championships there. All right, so yeah, there's a lot going on with the spring sports, and now's the time when it really gets interesting with tennis and golf, and make sure you follow those as well. UCF_M tennis, UCF_W tennis, track and field, of course. You can follow them as well for all the latest on that. So, all right. real quick reminder, football, obviously their UCF Festival is taking place this coming Saturday, spring game. What's interesting here is they're doing the yard sale at the Nicholson Fieldhouse, where you can buy basically, old used UCF stuff, things like helmets, shirts, golf shirts, jerseys, those kinds of things. They will have according to this, 2 miniature golf courses, an Insta-Ramp kids skateboard clinic, food trucks, and several other family-friendly activities. Local musician Keith Eaton takes the stage at 2 p.m. Headline act Craig Campbell takes the Pacifico Tailgate Concert Series stage at 4:15. A beer garden will be located next to the stage. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. It's, by the way, there's a title sponsor for this, the 2018 UCF football spring game presented by Dex Imaging.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, hey, look, that's, I'll take it. If Dex Imaging is going to do sponsorship for UCF, I'll take it. And fans will be allowed on the Spectrum Stadium field for 45 minutes after the game for photo opportunities. By the way, they will have at 5:45. They will unveil the national championship signage before kickoff, we call it kickoff, but they're not really going to kick off. But anyway, all lots open at
signage. Now you said a signage.
Yes, signage.
Not a banner. Not a banner. Okay.
I don't see the word banner here. Now, am I assuming this is a banner? Maybe they're waiting for the regular season. But yeah.
Who we got? We got Murph. I know Murph's there, so I guess we'll have to get somebody to get the photo of this.
Yeah. Well, Derek is trying to get in there. I got to follow up with Derek, see if he's got it.
Yeah.
But hopefully we will. Hopefully that'll be fun. So yeah, that's the spring game time. Will you be there?
No. No, I have a life.
You?
Yeah. No, I have a life. I'm not like these people. No, with all due respect. I mean, really. I mean, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, and I will bring this up again anytime somebody wants to ask me about this, that anybody that went to the spring game last year left the building saying, hey, this is a team that's going to go undefeated and win the Peach Bowl and be a national title team. I don't think anybody said that coming out of a spring game. So you're not going to, my point is they're not going to learn it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a glorified practice. You know what it is? It's just a little hit to kind of take the edge off, for the, in the middle of,
so. I mean, yeah, for those that don't have a life.
In the middle of non-football season, right? It's just a little bit, we can talk some football, see some exciting plays, but you're right. We're not really going to learn much. My hope is that
you're not going to learn anything.
You're going to learn more from practice, and you can't get to practice. You can't see practice, which is fine.
Right. I do wonder too. I've noticed nationally that the spring game coverage has toned down. Have you not noticed that? Like, I felt this year. I was talking to someone about this. Like in the past few years, I would see a ton of spring game coverage, spring games on television, et cetera. I haven't seen that much.
You think we've jumped the shark in terms of spring games, spring football coverage?
Absolutely. I think we've jumped the shark on football in general. I know everybody's like, no, I'm saying it's funny. Like Steve Spurrier did his little press conference earlier this week. I know it's a little off topic, but they're doing that. What is that? Alliance Football League?
The Alliance of American Football or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to last. I mean, come on. I don't think we are. I don't think people are just appetizing for football 24/7 anymore. I really don't. I think the sports fan's different now. I think if you're a football fan, you don't need different leagues to follow football. I think they're going to follow the NFL Network and they'll follow whatever. I think everybody's got their niche. Everybody's going to follow what they want to follow. If you want to follow UCF sports all year, you can. You don't have to wait around and follow other stuff. I think we've jumped the shark. I think people are.
I think college spring coverage has jumped the shark.
I think football in general, but yeah, I think the spring chart. I think people realize it really doesn't matter.
When you talk about I think there's two forces at play, and actually this is going to bring me back to that Alliance of American Football thing, okay? Because I want to touch on this really quickly. So the news was, and By the way, our boy Andy Seeley was there. Steve Spurrier had his introductory press conference for the Orlando franchise that Steve Spurrier is going to be the head coach of.
Which they're going to play, I believe. Are they going to play at Spectrum?
2019 is actually when they're going to start playing. They're actually first of all, they're beating the XFL into existence.
Which is weird because
Charlie Ebersol, that's right,
who produced the XFL 30 for 30, is the one that's in charge of this league, which is fascinating.
Yeah, that
he's literally going head to head with Vince and the XFL, which is really interesting.
Well, here's what I find that's interesting about the AAF is that I think that there are two competing forces. The one force that I think people focus on heavily is fan interest, right? Because it's a business, and fan interest is key, which I think you're right. I think that it's jumped the shark. I don't think that fans are like dying for football in the spring right now, especially when you consider how big the NBA's gotten. Baseball is getting interesting once again after it was down for a little bit.
By the way, here's the thing. In this market, there's an MLS franchise that's pretty popular, the Orlando City. That's the difference now. There's more at the plate now.
Yeah, MLS is gaining in popularity. Then. That's true. That's true. Now, here's the other force that's competing though with that is the from a business perspective, the league's need for a developmental platform. I think that it's been that general managers and coaches, the ones that I listen to and on the radio and podcasts and everything, whenever you hear them talk about that, they talk about the need since the new collective bargaining agreement in the NFL to have some sort of developmental structure outside of the teams. Now, if that means like each team's develop their own developmental programs, that's one thing. But these sort of spring leagues can sort of help with that because we knew how that went with the World League, which later evolved into NFL Europe. There have been several success stories out of that of developmental players, and this is where I think the AAF has a little bit of an advantage with it being Charlie Ebersol in charge. By the way, the co-founders are listed as Charlie Ebersol and Bill Polian. Okay, and their front office staff, very interesting here. Okay. Head of Player Relations, Troy Polamalu. Head of Football Operations, J.K. McKay, brother of Rich McKay, another son of John McKay. Head of Player Relations Executive, Hines Ward. Player Relations Executive, Jared Allen. Board of Directors, Dick Ebersol. Player Engagement Board of Advisor member, Justin Tuck. So there's some former NFL guys who were involved in that. And, by the way, head of business operations, Tom Veet.
Well, I know Tom.
You know Tom,
I know Tom. He was involved with the XFL. Obviously, he did some local radio for a little bit.
Worked with the Rage back in the XFL days. He was their general manager, I believe. So
Sure.
So there's some heavy-hitting former NFL guys who are involved in this, which leads me to believe that I'm just going to say my opinion here, where the XFL seems to sell itself as football for Trump voters, the AAF is selling itself as a possible developmental platform for the NFL.
Well, I think that's the positive route to go. If your goal is to be a developmental thing and maybe the NFL could help you out, assist you a little bit, that could work. If your goal is to be an alternative, then I agree it's not going to work. Look, I think
you're not going to beat the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You're not going to beat the NFL. No. Stop saying you're going to try. It's not going to work.
Now, Orlando's going to support the team because they've supported all these other teams. As long as the finances and they have a realistic deal, that'll be fine. But here's the thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the thing. I think based on the people you've told me that are involved, if I had to bet money, is their games will probably be on NBC Sports Network. Don't you think? I mean, don't you think?
I would imagine
with everything that Dick Ebersol has done for NBC Sports, I feel like they'll give him that NBC Sports Network. Like that's got written all over.
Yeah, NBC Sports Network with possibly streaming games through their NBC Sports app. And the other thing that I was mentioning though is that if that's the route that they're going to take, that as a developmental league, that opens up more opportunities for UCF players. And to have a team in Orlando in this league.
Milton.
Yeah. I mean, guys like Mackenzie Milton, also guys like, Shaquan Burkett, right? I mean, if Shaquan doesn't get drafted, doesn't latch on with an NFL team, but he's talented enough where he could play. Guys like him, if some of those other players, if they don't get drafted, they could develop into pretty good pros given the opportunity, and we could definitely see that happen through a league like this, especially having a team right here in Orlando playing in Spectrum Stadium, which is which as far as I understand is where the Orlando franchise is going to play. That could be a tremendous advantage for expanding UCF's football profile in the pros.
No question, and I think that if that's the goal, that's the goal. It's kind of like minor league baseball. But if if you think you're going to get a lot of national attention, you're not going to get it.
I agree.
Because this league is going to start when? When would this league be playing?
2019 is when they plan to kick off.
What's the month breakdown there? Is
I don't think they've said. I think right after the Super Bowl. Let me double check here.
Right, that makes sense. It's probably going to be, let's say it's February to August. That's probably what it is. Well, you got the NBA, which has turned into a machine. I mean, the NBA is clearly the number 2 sport in the United States. It's probably the number 2 sport globally. Some would argue that from a youth standpoint, I think that the NBA is more popular than even the NFL. It's probably the most popular sport in the country. Mm-hmm. So that's going to dominate the national media. You mentioned Major League Baseball. It's still very it's still relevant as far as television coverage. The NHL playoffs are going on during that time. You have I mean, my point is you got the MLS. You got a ton of options from a sports standpoint, not to mention it's not like it was 20 years ago. Now you could be a fan of the NFL, but a casual sports fan and take the spring off and just enjoy life and entertainment and watch movies and sitcom. Yeah. It's not like before we're like, man, I need to. I just think it's a different culture now than it is. I don't miss
much
football.
More fragmented sports culture these days.
I do. I think it's everybody's kind of has their niche and everybody's doing their thing. So if they go with the right mindset, then that's good. But if they think they're going to have a lot of national attention and coverage, then then they're gonna fail like every other league has.
Couple notes here. The Alliance of American Football, they plan on announcing a total of 8 teams and their cities by June of this year. They would hold regional drafts, so that's interesting. They will have a.
I like that. Well, I like that. Well, that makes a lot of sense. You're going to get a lot of Florida ties played here in Orlando. It makes a ton of sense. That way, you have more local people coming to watch your games. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. A 10-week regular season starting on February 9th, 2019, which I assume is the week after the Super Bowl.
Yep.
14 playoff capped with the league's championship game planned for the weekend of April 26th through 28th. So they're getting this thing done before May. And they actually have already announced a TV partner, CBS and CBS Sports Network.
Wow, that surprises me that NBC didn't jump on that.
Yeah, so I wanted to correct
CBS,
this on that.
So I would assume the majority of the games will be on CBS Sports Network, and maybe the championship games on CBS.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
right? I mean, is that the thinking?
Let's see. It says the league is also planning player bonuses and scholarships. Player bonuses to be based on performance and fan interaction. Players would earn a year's scholarship in post-secondary education for each season of play. And for the fans, in addition to a fantasy league built into mobile broadcasts, low ticket prices and inexpensive food are planned. So that's nice. They announced broadcast deals with back in March with CBS. The inaugural game and the championship game will both air on CBS. The CBS Sports Network will air at least one game per week. And the league's mobile app will, by the way, here's the fragmentation you're talking about. The league's mobile app will offer live streaming of every game.
There you go. That makes sense. And I think, too, that's for CBS Sports Network. That's probably going to replace, they carry Arena Football, which is like really in death mode.
That's not what it used to be.
No. So it makes a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens. I mean,
we'll see what happens. And you know what? If it's another avenue for more UCF players to be seen, to play, to be in a league where they play for pay, as Mike Francesa calls it, then you know what? Excellent. As far as I'm concerned. All right, let's put a bow on this thing, Eric. What do you got coming up this week?
Well, I got, as I mentioned earlier, go to fastpitchnews.com. I've got my latest projection, 64-team field for softball, and I break it all down nationally there. So I'll be doing some fast pitch news. It's crunch time. Going to be covering a lot of that stuff. Obviously, UCF's got the big weekend series with Wichita State. I'll be getting ready for the big War and I-4 next weekend, UCF USF. So those are kind of some of the tidbits that I will be got going on.
Cool stuff. And by the way, next week, obviously, starting next week with the NFL Draft, I'm actually going to be working on some NFL Draft stuff for a couple of our for some of the UCF players that are expected to be heading into the draft. So I did one. I remember format of a column that I did a couple years ago for Sports Talk Florida that worked really nice. I think we're going to replicate that here as well. So, all right, let's wrap this thing up. Thanks once again to Brian Murphy for joining us here on the to talk a little baseball. And thanks again to you, Eric.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
And where can people find you?
Eric Lopez Elam.
All right, you can find me at Jeff_Sharon on Twitter, UCF_Banneret for all of us, and also Spokes_Murphy for Brian. Be sure to follow him. He'll be working the spring game coming up this Saturday as well. Don't forget to visit Black and Gold Banneret for all your latest UCF news and analysis. And also follow us on Facebook. Give us a like and follow us at facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. You can subscribe to this podcast on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. For Eric and Brian, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate, then get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.